If things burn away, there has to be death in order for there to be rebirth. And so this isn't a death of the podcast. It's not going anywhere, but it is going to be a pause and a hibernation time where when we come back, things are going to be even that much better. You're going to see a new version of what it means to be inside of this incredible soul power space. And things are going to be reimagined in the absolute best way. Hello, my love. It's time for you to get ready. Because every single thing that you have learned about money, wealth creation, success, and hard work is about to get flipped right on its head. Welcome to the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebekah. I'm a financial advisor turned wealth energetics coach, and I have almost 2 decades experience helping people reach their financial goals. And after all that time of studying the human psychology around money, I learned this, that wealth creation is not just a game of strategy and spreadsheets. It is a game of accessing your soul power. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you how to do during our time together. Here on this podcast, we blend nervous system regulation, spiritual alignment, money energetics, and more so that you can expand your income and your inner peace. This is the podcast where strategy meets soul and your next level expansion begins. This isn't just a podcast. It is quite literally a portal to your next level, and your higher self is inviting you to step into it. So if you're ready to stop hustling for your worth and finally claim it so that you too can make more, save more, and finally live more, then you're in the right place. Let's rise. Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm so excited that you are here today because we are picking up where we left off on the last episode, where I was sharing my experience at the Human Design Hotel, how incredible it was, and then my travel back home is what we're going to talk about today. My disastrous travel back home, as well as the lessons that I learned from that, because truly, when you can see how everything in your life is actually happening for you, everything shifts and everything changes. Okay, so that's what we're going to move into. And then also, I have an announcement at the very end of our call today. It's going to be really important for you guys who have been loyal listeners, who've been here for a while, and for those who are new to know what to expect in the world of the Soul Powered Podcast and the Rise with Rebekah world. So we'll get into that at the very end, but welcome. I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm really excited to pick up where we left off. So just a little recap. If you didn't hear about my Human Design Hotel experience, you'll definitely want to check out the episode prior to this. I also share about my daughter having a diagnosis of a pulmonary embolism at 19 years old, and I had to rush her to the hospital right before this trip, and it was a bit of a hectic several weeks, and I honestly have learned so much since getting back. And so you'll definitely want to check all of that out. And again, shout out to the amazing Maya Pearl and the Human Design Hotel team for the experience that we got to have. Oh my God, guys, you'll have to check out their Instagram. I'll tag that all below for you. And honestly, yeah, keep an eye out because I am going to be hosting some sort of event at some point. We are manifesting that right now. And you guys are going to get to experience the Human Design Hotel, or those of you who want to and want to be a part of something so epic will get to experience that potentially here in the near future. All right, so let's get to my ride to the airports and then my flight home from this incredible experience. So again, recapping, we had the most amazing experience. Maya and her team put on this incredible retreat-like structure for us. And the high vibes that were not only at the hotel, but then with all the women that I got the opportunity to meet during that period of time. The breath work slash, awakening session that we had. It was so beautiful that Stephanie and Lauren led for us. And then myself, Eden's assistant, and Maya got to hang out a little bit on the day that I was leaving, which was Sunday. We got to go over to Maya's house for a bit and just hang out, cozy up, have some tea, chat, and connect before we left. And it was kind of crazy because it was the very first snowfall of the season in Montreal, and it was like snowing sideways. It was definitely a snowstorm. And I know that this contributed to my crazy travel home, but there's actually more to dive into with that because this has been a pattern for me. Things that don't typically happen in my world over the last couple of years have been happening right before I've traveled. And it was probably about a year ago, maybe, that I figured out I was actually at a event that my mastermind was hosting. And we were doing some sort of exercise like we always do. And we were looking at some stressful things that were happening in our lives as of late. And what I actually realized is that when I was a child, our very first family trip was to Alabama, the state of Alabama. We went to go visit some family, and I shared this story in a previous episode, but my brother was actually attacked by a 250-pound Bengal tiger on that trip. Now, if you want to hear the whole story, I know people are like, wait, what? I'm sorry, say that again? Yeah, he was attacked by a tiger on that trip. And so you'll definitely have to go back. I'll link that again for you in the show notes. Listen to the full story if you want to hear about what happened there. But what I realized is that was our very first family trip. We drove to Alabama and then we ended up flying home because of my brother's injury. And so my little nervous system at the time registered that travel is not safe and chaos will ensue when travel is coming or when travel's around. And so for years upon years, I've always wanted to travel. Like, this was definitely a core value of mine, is to see the world, to experience new things, to get and to show my daughter the world, to take her and give her the life that I never got to have. I've always loved to connect with nature, to be at the beach or be in mountains. I absolutely love just traveling and getting to see new things, experiencing new things, and getting a taste for what this world really does have to offer. So for years upon years, there would be stress around travel. And it didn't really dawn on me that this was out of the norm because the majority of my life, especially my adult life, I spent in massive amounts of anxiety on a normal everyday basis. So my baseline because my nervous system was dysregulated, my baseline for how I normally felt was pretty anxious on an everyday basis. And so I didn't really realize that when I was traveling, there was any more anxiety, if that makes sense. Like, I just knew that travel was stressful. Like, we've got to get to the airport. We've got to, do things that we don't normally do. We've got to be on deadlines. And back when I really first started this journey, I was definitely not who I am today. And I did not stick to schedules. I wasn't ever on time. I was very stressed out all the time. And I was usually rushing to get from one thing to the next. And I wasn't typically planning or looking ahead. And so I've missed flights, because of my errors, not the airline's errors, which is soon to come here in the story, because that has happened in the latter part of my life. I have started to have external experiences create the chaos in my life instead of internal ones, which is really all the same. And we'll get to that. So I would miss flights. I would not make it to the airport on time. I would forget my passport, or I would forget my driver's license. And so I'd have to go back home like at 5 a.m., as I'm on the way to the airport, and, just be late all the time and running and running. And that was really just genuinely how I lived my life back then. So again, yes, travel was stressful back in the day, but as I started to regulate my nervous system, and this is what you will feel too, as you begin this healing process, you will start to notice that your baseline nervous system set point is not so much all the way up here in a heightened space, that it's more neutral most of the time. And so what will happen is the triggers that you do notice in your life will actually get louder, but they're going to be less frequent. They're just going to feel like they're louder, meaning throughout my day on a typical daily basis, I am now really even keel. My baseline for my nervous system is super regulated. It's chill. It's where it needs to be. And so if I am experiencing a stressor, like travel, for instance, okay, I will notice that now I am in a heightened state of, fight, flight, freeze, collapse, all of the things. Okay. So it becomes louder and more obvious because I don't live my life that way on a normal basis. Does that make sense? So it's no longer my norm. It's no longer my dominant vibration. So when it happens, it's like, whoa, it's like glaringly obvious. Now, thankfully, I know how to bring myself out of those spaces in a more timely fashion than I would have in the past. But that's how it shows up for me, is the triggers that I do still have, because I'm human, just like everyone else. The triggers that I do still experience, they tend to be a little bit exacerbated and kind of like right in my face. And it's almost because it's like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, I'm not used to living in that state anymore. And so I'm met with something and it feels very blatantly obvious. Whereas before I just was a walking trigger and a walking panic attack. And it's not funny. I'm not self-deprecating here. I'm laughing with you, right? I'm not laughing at myself. I'm laughing with myself because I've healed from a lot of it. I've healed from the majority of it. And so I still experience those human emotions, but again, I know how to bring myself out of them. And so it's just bringing some levity to the situation when I laugh about it, because it really genuinely was a very difficult time in my life. And I don't want to bypass that or downplay that. When I was living in this amount of anxiety, there wasn't anything funny about it. So I'll be clear about that part. Okay. I want to kind of become complete with that. Okay. So back to the travel. So I realized again that this fear that was ingrained in my nervous system when my brother was attacked by a tiger, I think that he was 9. So I would have been about 7 or 8. And that was living in my body until 2 weeks ago. And that's really what this opportunity of leaving Montreal and having this beautiful experience that I just left into a chaotic experience on the travel home gave me the opportunity to release and complete. So I'll back up a second. When I've been traveling over the last couple years for my mastermind events, these events are really designed to help you to integrate on the triggers that are coming up in your life, because a lot of times the triggers that are coming up in your personal life, they're also showing up in your business. If you're running a business, the two aren't separate. And so we're working through these things that are coming up. And then I'm working also with just this beautiful network of individuals that I've made these incredible connections with. And they're all heart-centered coaches and mentors and guides and teachers as well. So we get together and it's nothing but how can we help support each other? How can we help each other move through our blocks? And we're just literally just giving to one another, giving, and then we receive. We get the opportunity to receive, which I have found has been a more difficult part for me over the last few years, if I'm honest, because I'm used to being the one who's giving. I'm the coach, I'm the guide, I'm the teacher, I'm the mentor. And so I'm always giving. And it's really been a bit of a beautiful challenge to be able to receive at a new level, because the way that we receive anything, support, compliments, love, affection, is the way that we receive money as well. And so I know that based on how triggered I've been over the last couple of years with receiving support, that shows me that I'm up against my new financial edge as well, which is fun because I get to work through those triggers. And then as a result, I not only get to receive more support, but then I get to receive more money and more other things as well. So that it's all intertwined. So we get to these events and I'm talking with my friends and other coaches, and they're just like, I'm talking about these experiences that I've been having around travel, because it was things like my one dog who we had to put down, she attacked my other dog right before I was getting ready to go to our annual mastermind event. And I had to like put her down right after. And it was just such a mess. And like my heart was just broken the whole time. There's the whole story on that one too. It's not that simple. We tried to find her a home. We tried forever. This was not her first dog aggression attack. She attacked 4 or 5 other dogs. And so this was becoming a trend, and we couldn't find any shelter or rehoming, agency to be able to take her and rehome her. So just want to clarify that point. But we did not end up having to put her down. And it was right around one of our big events. My daughter had this experience where I had to rush her to the ER right before, this event that I had scheduled. My daughter had another medical emergency that came up a few weeks before the last event that I went to. So it was like, I started seeing this pattern where I'm normally really even keeled. Then I go to travel, which is a core value of mine that I really want to continue to be able to do. But then there's all this chaos around travel. So not only did my daughter in August, when we had our mastermind event in California, she had a medical situation that came up right before. I also was stuck in airports for 36 hours straight because of tornadoes and weather situations. It was a horrible experience. And that happened. And so that was just in August. That was the last time that I traveled. And now I'm leaving Montreal. Okay, so let's go back to leaving Montreal, leaving the human design event. And I get to the airport, which the travel to the airport was a little hectic because it was the first snowstorm. And so we wanted to try to be there, 2.5 to 3 hours before our flights left. My flight was supposed to leave at 7 p.m. And we was only supposed to take about 25 minutes to get to the airport. And it took about an hour, right over an hour to get there. So I was already a little bit like, okay, we need to get out of here. Like, I need to get to my gate, got to get checked in, got to do all this. Cause it's, it's considered to be an international flight, right? Obviously. I mean, it's international, but I mean, it's Canada. So it's like, there's not as much in terms of customs that you would have to go through with other countries. But regardless, it's international. You're supposed to be there 3 hours ahead of time is the guideline. And so I am not there 3 hours ahead. I'm there 2 hours ahead. And then Eden and her assistant are in the limo with me. And they are only an hour and 45 minutes, I think, ahead of their flight. So we're all stressed. We're running into the airport. And as soon as we get into the airport, my flight gets delayed 25 minutes. And so I'm like, okay, cool. It's only 25 minutes. And they were saying it was because of the storm. And I'm like, no big deal. 25 minutes. Okay, good. I actually have a little bit more time. I don't have to run around. I don't have to rush. No problem. Eden and Jessica, her assistant, did not at that point have any delays or anything like that. So they're like, okay, we're out. We gave each other hugs, left, and they go to their gate. I start to go to mine. I get up to the gate and I'm like, okay, I found my gate, laid eyes on it. I'm like, I know where I'm supposed to be. I'm about an hour and a half ahead of our flight leaving, an hour before boarding. So I'm going to get something to eat. So I sat down at one of the restaurants and I'm just ordering my chicken fingers and fries, which is terrible. But at the same time, it was one of those days where I was like, you know what? I want to splurge on something today. So I get my chicken fingers and fries. And I feel like an 8-year-old as I'm sitting there eating it. But I'm calling Eric. I'm like, I'm here. I got something to eat. I can't wait to see you. I'm so excited to get home. And then as I'm on the phone with him, my flight gets delayed again, another 20 minutes or something. So it was like these small increments that it was getting delayed. But I'm starting to get nervous that I'm going to miss my connecting flight. So I'm on with him and I'm like, So I'm going from Montreal to Washington, D.C., and then from Washington, D.C. to Pittsburgh, because there's usually not a whole lot of direct flights out of Pittsburgh. It's just not a huge city. And so we don't have a ton of direct flights. So with that, I'm like, I am right up on like missing this connecting flight. I think I had like an hour and a half or something, but the DC airport, is pretty big. So it was just, I mean, it's huge. So it's like, I have to really not have this flight out of Montreal delayed anymore, or I'm going to miss my connecting flight. So I'm like, okay, babe, you know what? I'm going to get ahead of this. I'm going to go ahead and just call and see if there's anything that I need to do, see if I can notify anyone. And I do not want to miss this connecting flight home. And at the same time, my body, because our body keeps the score, is remembering my event in August where I was stuck in airports for 36 hours and just terrified that was going to happen again. Because I know it's first world problems, and I definitely recognize that. And at the same time, when you're in a position where you don't have any of your belongings, I didn't have a blanket. In August, I literally didn't have a blanket, and I didn't even have socks on. Okay. I learned a lot of lessons from that. We have a podcast episode on that one. But that was it was traumatizing for the body, because you're completely uncomfortable. There's nowhere to sleep. There's nowhere to rest. And 36 hours of being awake on a normal day is awful, let alone stuck in an airport that is freezing with strangers and, continuously being like strung along that your flight's going to go, your flight's going to go, your flight's going to go, and nothing goes. You can't even leave and get a hotel. Like, it was a whole thing in August. So my body was starting to bring a lot of those emotions back up from that experience of like, oh my God, here we go again. Right. So I started feeling that anxiety come on. And I'm trying to like breathe through it. And I just start crying. And Eric's like on the phone with me. He's like, baby, it's okay. Like, we're going to figure this out. It's going to be fine. You're going to make the flight. No big deal. And then as I'm on the phone with him, my connecting flight from DC to Pittsburgh gets canceled because of the government shutdown. And so I'm like, you have to be kidding me. Like, you have to be kidding me. So not only is my flight getting delayed out of Montreal, but now I definitely do not have a way home once I get to DC, if I get to DC, which I'm starting to lose confidence now that I'm even leaving Montreal. And so I'm like, babe, I gotta go. I have to go try to figure this out. I don't know what I'm doing now. I gotta go. And my nervous system is in a heightened state of fight or flight. So when that happens, my analytical mind was like out the window. I couldn't think really clearly. But what I did is just started to go to the Air Canada booth and just ask them, like, how confident are we that this flight is leaving tonight? Because if not, I'm just going to have to stay here in Montreal, and I'm not staying on an airport floor again. I'm going to call my friend Maya, or I'm going to get a hotel right by the airport. Like, whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to do. And so in my panic, I messaged my friend Maya, who put on this event and who I was hanging out with earlier in the day. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I know she's a listener of the podcast. So hi, Maya, if you're listening. And she told me that she heard my story about, my story in August about my travel. And so she's like, oh no, like, not again. And I'm like, yes, this is happening again. I don't know what to do. And I'm just kind of freaking out and honestly just seeing what my options are at this point. Like, I need to at least make sure that, before she goes to bed or something which thinking back, I didn't really need to do that. I could have just gotten a hotel like right near the airport, but I was afraid, I'm in another country, which it's not. I mean, it's another country and everybody speaks French. And it's one of those things where my nervous system, as it started to get put into this heightened state of fight or flight, now my nervous system is on edge and it's scanning for threats. And it's like, you don't even know how to, navigate all these things. Not everybody speaks English. And I just started thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get around. Again, looking back, it's like, it would have been very easy for me to figure that out. But I was kind of like reaching for some safety nets at that point. And so I reached out to Maya, and she so lovingly, she was like, don't worry, if you're stuck here, you can come and stay at my house, or you go back and stay at the hotel. It's completely fine. Don't worry. And she's like, here's what you do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And it was like the most motherly, like sweet thing in the world. And I'm just like crying. It's just like in a little bit of a frenzy, because I was so afraid of what happened in August happening again, that I couldn't really think clearly. So again, guys, I do go through these things and I want to share them because I do believe that if we don't share that we are human and all of this journey that we're on together on the podcast or on social media or any of it, if we're not telling the truth about this, then when these things come up for you and when you have lessons in life that you have to work through, you're going to feel like something's wrong with you or that you're broken. But the more that you hear about the people that you listen to and that you look up to and that you feel connected to, you know that they're still experiencing shit, they still have problems, then you're going to feel like, okay, yes, like I can do this. I can walk this path. It's okay. This stuff never goes away. It's just you get better at handling it. And a lot of times the problems do, as you elevate your income, as you elevate your just ability to, your capacity really to deal with these things, they do become lesser of problems in a way, or it's just that you know how to handle it better. And so you don't make as big of a meaning of it. Maybe in the moment it feels heavy, which it did for me during this period of time, but you can kind of quickly come out of it versus something like this would have had me like swear off travel for like a year, which I was tempted to do. If I'm 100% honest with you, I was sitting here thinking as I'm messaging Maya and she's so lovingly telling me what to do, I'm getting another delay and another delay on my Montreal trip and another delay. And then I like hear people yelling because their flights are getting delayed and their flights are getting canceled. And I'm like, this is exactly what it was like in August. So you see how body keeps the score. It was like a really big event in August that I wasn't able, apparently, I didn't know that I didn't complete that stress cycle, but I didn't. All of that stress that I felt in August was still stored in my body and I hadn't taken the time to really process it all out. And so I was met with it again in November here. So I'm messaging Maya and I'm just like, okay, you know what? I know it's getting late at this point in time. It's like 8, maybe 8:30 in the evening. And I don't know when I'm leaving. I don't know if I'm leaving. And so I just said to her, I said, is it okay if I don't want to keep bothering you. I will keep you in the loop if you want to know, but is it okay if I just have to? I'll go get my bag. I'll have them give me my bag back that I had already checked and I'll go stay at the hotel. I'll just Uber there. And she's like, yes, like no worries. You know, I've got your code is the same. Don't worry. You can go back and stay there if you need to. So at the same time, I'm chatting with her, my flight's getting delayed further. My husband calls me back and he's like, okay, babe, like I was talking to my mom and we came up with a plan. They're so cute. These are my safety nets because I was in a state of fight or flight and I really couldn't think straight. And Washington, D.C. is only about 3.5 hours from Pittsburgh. I've driven there many times before. I did my landmark. I think it was my landmark forum event was there. And so I've been there a bunch. Like there's no reason why I couldn't drive home. And so they were like, okay, if your flight leaves Montreal, which I'm like crying and I'm like, I don't know if I'm leaving, babe. Like it was just like, I was so in it. Right. And so I'm telling him, okay, if I leave here, he's like, if your flight leaves, then you can just rent a car. I'll reserve a car for you right now. You'll pick it up and then you can just drive home. And I'm like, yay. Like I absolutely would love to drive home. I'm exhausted. Okay. But I would love to drive home at, whatever time in the morning that I get there. But I know he was trying to help and it ended up being such a great plan. But in the beginning of it, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because he kept saying you're going to drive 5 hours home. And I'm like, why are you exaggerating the amount of time right now? I don't need that. I need you to just say it's only 3.5 hours, babe. Don't worry. And it ended up being about 3 hours and 45 minutes. But regardless, he's like, okay, we've got a plan. So I go on and I rent a car on Enterprise and they say that they're closing at 12:30 a.m. And so it's like 9:30 at this point in time. And I don't know now, like if I'm going to get there in time, but I'm like, you know what? If all these flights are down and there's all this shit going on, there may not be a whole lot of rental cars. I need to just rent one. Like I need to just secure one so that I have it when I get there. And flight gets pushed back again from Montreal. I go up and ask the lady, I'm like, what is the chances of this flight leaving? And she's like, no, honestly, like they would tell us. She's like, this could change, but right now it looks like it's still on its way here. Like we're okay. We are leaving today, but something happened where, these airlines are always pushing things back. So I decide to wait for a little bit longer. And then we are getting to the point where I think it's an hour and a half flight from Montreal to Pittsburgh. We're getting to the point where it's like, okay, if we don't start boarding soon, I'm not going to get there before 12:30. So I'm not going to get my reservation and I'm going to be stuck in DC as it is. Not knowing how the DC airport was actually set up, which I'll share here in a second. And I didn't have to be worried about that part. But my brain was so focused on it was like as I would solve one problem, another one would come up in my mind. And I was just getting so tired of like, okay, like nothing is quite working out here. So they come on to the loudspeaker in our terminal and they're like, okay, your flight's delayed another hour and a half. And that would have put us about 11 o'clock. So we would have literally been landing at the time of the closing of Enterprise. And I'm just like, whatever, I've got to just surrender at this point. Like I can't even worry about this because there's nothing I can do. And then about 15, 20 minutes later, they came back over and they're like, okay, never mind. Like we're boarding now. And I'm like, what? So we get on and I'm like, yes, we have plenty of time now. I'm going to get there before 12:30. No problem at all. We get boarded. We get onto the plane. We get going. And they're like, we just need to stop and de-ice for a couple minutes. A couple minutes turns into about 45 minutes on the plane before we ever even took off. And at that point, I couldn't access my phone. Like I was not able to get on and like cancel my reservation. And I was just like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I don't care. I'll get to the airport and I will figure it out. So we land about 12:30. I'm not thinking the Enterprise is open, but my husband called. I messaged him. That's right. Right before we took off, I said, babe, I can't call Enterprise. I can't do anything here, but maybe you can call them and put like my flight number on there, put something and just ask them if there's any way that I can come and get this after closing. And so he did. And they said that supposedly they'll stay open 2 hours longer because if they're able to track your flight, they can see that you're late. So I'm like, cool. Okay. I've got a little bit of just peace in my heart with that. But really, I'm just completely exhausted. I'm so ready to go home. I'm so ready to take a little bit of a nap in the plane because I know I have a 5-hour drive, according to my husband, when I'm getting home. And I'm just like, I'm going to sleep for a minute. So I put my binaural beats on and I just try to like lay my head down and go to sleep, but they don't turn any of the lights off for the whole plane. And I'm like, they always turn the lights off. It's midnight. It's like 1 a.m. Why are we keeping the lights on? And I don't like to sleep with the lights on. So needless to say, I didn't sleep on the plane at all. And that's very rare for me. I usually can like doze off, but I think just the amount of like anxiety that was running through my body, the energy in my body was just like, I have to also keep a lot of energy going because I have this drive home. So I have to make sure that I get my bag from baggage claim and I need to reroute the bag as well. So that's the other thing I was worried about the whole flight was because I had a connecting flight. My bag was supposed to go and automatically be transferred to the flight that was going to go out later, which was, not actually happening. That flight was canceled. So I looked on ChatGPT and it was like, you need to make sure that you tell them the second that you get off the plane so they can pull your bag. Otherwise, it could be hours on end. Okay. So I am just like, just on edge every second of the way. And as soon as I come off the flight, the guy is there and he's like calling my name actually, because he gave me another ticket for the next day. He was like, hey, we've got you rebooked for 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever it was, Monday. So we left on a Sunday night and I'm like, no, I'm driving, sir. I said, thank you for doing that, but actually, could you help me get my bag? And he went down and he told them, he was like, I need to go right now. He told everybody else in line, like, hold on, she needs her bag, which I was like really grateful for. And he told them, and then they sent it to whatever, baggage claim terminal that everybody else who didn't have a correct connecting flight would get their bags. So I'm like, cool. I go. I'm not out of the woods yet. I don't even know if Enterprise is open at this point, but I go get my bag. I've got my 2 bags. Thankfully, it came out. I'm like, yes, okay, that's working. And at this point, I had just kind of committed to this is going to work. I'm getting home tonight. I do not care how that works. I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm getting home. And so I go down. I go out to where you can get on these shuttles to get to the rental car places. And I just wait for the one that says Enterprise. And I get on, and there's these 3 guys, probably about my age, and then this older couple. And I'm overhearing them talk. And they're saying that, oh yeah, like here, they keep these places open 24 hours. Like you don't have to worry about getting there by a certain time. I was able to in the past get them by a certain time, blah, 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 blah. So I'm starting to feel a little bit of ease with it. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting this car and I'm leaving. And sure enough, the shuttle took us there. I picked up a little cute Jeep. Oh, what was it? Cherokee or something. They're super cute. And I was like, okay, I'm driving home. So I got my rental. They didn't have my reservation, but he was able to rent it to me anyway because there was plenty of cars to choose from. I leave the airport parking lot. I stop at a Sheetz gas station, which we have here. I don't know if anybody is from like this area, Pittsburgh. I think they're in West Virginia, Ohio. They actually are kind of like growing a lot. I think they started here in Pittsburgh. But anyways, they have those MTO machines, which is like the made to order food. There's all kinds of stuff. It's not it's gas station food, but I went in and I was like, I'm going to at least get myself a coffee because I got a long drive home. I'm going to get some snacks and I'm going to get some water and I'm going home. So I did. And I went and got my coffee. I just got excited. I had this, brand new car that I'm driving, right? Like, which is a fun car because I like Jeeps, and my next car is going to likely be a Jeep because we want to get a drivable camper that we can tow it behind or take it up to our cabin. And so I really do want to get my next car as a Jeep. So I was kind of just, okay, we're here. We've got to make the best of it. We're going to get in this car. We're going to have 3.5 hours to figure out why this all happened. And we're going to be able to contemplate these things. And we're going to be in a nice, cute car. And we grabbed the Jeep as a signal to the universe. That's the next car I want to get. And I'm like, here we are. All right, let's do this. So I'm literally, it's the middle of the night. So there's barely anybody on the road. And I just started listening to some high vibe music. I put that on and I was like, okay, Spirit, like, let's talk. It seems like we have a lot to talk about. This is a common thread with travel over the last several years. I know where it stemmed from. I know where it's coming from. I know why it's happening. Tell me why this is my life right now. Tell me why it is that I'm going from these incredibly high vibe events and I'm going to come home to some sort of catastrophe, or right before I'm having some sort of catastrophe. I can't do this anymore. And as I'm speaking to my higher self, I'm like, that travel is something that I want to do. And this is making me not want to travel anymore. And I immediately got this whole conversation or question that I posed to my higher self kind of reflected right back to me. And it was like, well, why are you doing this? I'm like, what do you mean? Why am I doing this? Right? Because I was in a state of like, this is happening to me up until that point. And in that moment, as my higher self reflected it back, it was like, why are you doing this? Why are you choosing this? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And so as I unwound why it is that I was doing this, it really became apparent that my body still held on to that trauma from when I was 7 or 8 years old, when we went on that first trip where my brother was attacked by a tiger. It was so chaotic. It was so stressful. I almost lost my brother. And it was not a very great imprint to put on my mind for the very first time that I flew. And what I realized is that it's not the universe that is planting these things for me to have specific lessons. These chaotic things are occurring. Some of that can be true. Like with my daughter's, ER visit, like that was, I believe, a lesson for both of us. For her, more so to listen to her body when something is off. And we found something that really needed to be found. And that was a big lesson for her. And that was a lesson for me as well. But then on top of that, I realized that it was my energy, my frantic energy that I was emitting, even subtly, to the universe around travel, that was causing all of these things to occur and causing all of these things to not just have like a smooth trip. As soon as I realized last year that the trigger around the tiger bite was the thing that is the theme of my travel experiences, I started to unconsciously project that onto every trip since. And so this was really the opportunity of my higher self is like, I want you to not experience this anymore. I don't want you projecting this frantic energy because travel is a value of yours and you want to do more of this. And you're in a position in your life where you can. So I don't want you to be afraid of that. But I have to sit you down in a car for long enough to have this whole dialogue and conversation to unwind these 30 years of trauma around travel and to get yourself to a point where you recognize that actually travel is safe. You're just the one who's been projecting the unsafety. And that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with me as a result. That trauma has been stored in my body for a really long time. And so as I'm traveling, driving, and there's no one on the roads, no one to talk to, no one but me and my higher self, I'm just processing all of this energy. And I'm just crying and I'm laughing and I'm reminiscing and I'm realizing that, oh, it's not all of these things that are happening to me. I've projected all of this. And this was my lesson to learn. And so I feel like that cycle has completed. I was a little bit scared. I was telling myself as I was in the airport, I'm like, I am not traveling again for a long time. Meanwhile, I have our final event of the year, our BBD Live event in 2.5 weeks from now. And I am scheduled and booked to go. I am most likely going to be going as long as everything stays the course with my daughter. So we will see. But I am not backing out just because of travel plans. Even though I was tempted to say I'm canceling it, I'm not going anywhere else. I was able to work with my higher self through these things and realize that I'm not that little girl anymore. I don't have these kinds of crazy experiences that happen. I'm recreating them. And even if these events happen, even if something catastrophic happens, I am not her anymore. I can handle it now. I can work with it now. I know how to move through these things unlike I've ever known how to do in my past. I know how to listen to my intuition. I know how to follow my soul's path. I know how to regulate my nervous system. I know how to bring myself out of any situation. And so I needed to be able to sit with that part of me for long enough to process all of this and not just go straight back into work, straight back into life after this incredibly high vibe experience where I literally shifted timelines. I believe that I fully 100% completed a timeline cycle, a timeline integration, essentially, that I started at that event in August. I completed that in November as a result of going to this event, being around these women, having this travel experience home, being able to integrate the wisdom that I've learned and not collapse and not lose myself as a result of these undesired experiences and these lower vibe experiences. So it was truly a transformative event. And that leads me into where we stand right now as we move forward. So I told you I have an announcement to make. And I'll preface by saying that this past year, really, but more specifically since August, since I had my divine union, of my masculine and feminine energy. And if you want to learn more about that, you can definitely go back and there's a podcast episode about that. I share all of these things with you guys. But since that event occurred, everything in my life has been different. And nothing has been different at the same time. My perspective has shifted, though, completely since August. I've been going more inward than I ever have before. I have more access to my own personal power than I ever have before. I've been religiously doing my Kundalini yoga / meditation practice every day since then. I think there's been one day since I got back from my event in August. Yeah, one day that I haven't done my Kundalini practice. I am almost at 60 days of consecutive Kundalini practice every single day, which if you don't know what that is, research it. It's incredible. It's very powerful. It's a breath meditation / mantra practice. It's ancient wisdom. It's ancient technology. And it is really changing my life in the best way possible. I feel my nervous system is more regulated than it's ever been. And I've also been doing a ton of inner work otherwise. And so I believe that this is really calling me to this next path, this next step in my path, which is this hibernation phase that I'm being called into. I'm being drawn more inward and not so much externally motivated or externally driven, but I'm being called to go deeply inward and to not create as much content, not put out as much content, not have to show up as much and be on all the time. I'm really being called to what does my soul want to bring forth to this world? And how do I want to do it in a way that honors myself as the vessel that needs to be full? My cup needs to be full in order for me to overflow onto others. And with the level that I'm being called to, there's a new layer of structure that I'm being required to use. I'm being required to plan my days more consciously, plan my months more consciously, get more clear about the vision of business and what it is that I'm doing inside of the Soul Powered Society membership and everything, which has been so incredible to watch the women transforming in such a short period of time. They're manifesting money like they never have before, doing the things that they've never been able to do before. It's actually so beautiful to witness, even in a low ticket membership like that. So the doors to the Soul Powered Society are closed right now, but they will be opening again in 2026. So that brings me to the announcement, which is we are officially going to be in a hibernation phase until after the new year with the podcast as well. So I'm taking a little break. I'm going inward. We're going to reimagine what this looks like. This is not the end. This is truly just the beginning. And I feel like the last 5 years of this podcast have been absolutely life-changing in the best way. And I've also been in the cocoon. I can tell you in full transparency and full honesty that the last 5 years have been the cocoon phase for me. And so I've been here sharing my life as I've been moving through this cocoon, but now I'm emerging from it as the butterfly. I'm coming out of the void phase. I'm the seed that's finally breaking through the ground and seeing the sunlight. And I am deeply rooted now. And this is a different phase of me. And so it's going to require something different. And the podcast is still going to be here. It just is going to look a little bit different. Yeah, I'm really just connecting with what do my people need? What is it that you all need from a podcast? What is it that you're craving that I can share from my lived personal experience? Because I've walked through the depths of this death rebirth cycle. I've walked through so many moments of healing, so much overcoming of my own trauma and deprogramming myself from this matrix that we all live in. And now I truly am living this soul-powered way of being, even when it's not fun, even when it doesn't feel glorious, even when I'm stuck in airports or I'm canceled, flights or family emergencies and issues that come up and my own personal things that I'm going through on a daily basis. I'm still here showing up in this way. And sometimes that means that I've got to show up for me. And I've got to honor what it is that my soul is calling for as almost a permission slip for those of you who say, well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't possibly rest. I couldn't possibly let go of that client. I couldn't possibly pause my podcast. I couldn't possibly stop posting on social media. Everything would fall away. Everything would burn down. But I actually believe that that's a good thing. If things burn away, there has to be death in order for there to be rebirth. And so this isn't a death of the podcast. It's not going anywhere, but it is going to be a pause and a hibernation time where when we come back, things are going to be even that much better. You're going to see a new version of what it means to be inside of this incredible soul power space. And things are going to be reimagined in the absolute best way. So there's so much goodness coming for you. I can't wait to share it all. My background's going to look different. Things are going to look different because we're going to be also sharing this show on YouTube. And so we're going to focus on some of the visual aspects and creating a really powerful visual experience for you guys, no matter if you're watching on Spotify or you are listening in on YouTube. Either way, you're going to have an incredible experience and it's only going to keep getting better from there. So this next chapter that we move into is not going to be the final chapter, but it's going to be a reimagined one. And I can't wait. I'm so excited for it. I'm getting ready for it. I'm like already just looking at this incredible space that I already have. That's just so beautiful that I'm so grateful for. And I'm like, we're taking it up a notch because that's the point of life. And I'm obsessed with growth. Like I can't help. I can't stop the leaps. The quantum leaps are so real because every time I ask my higher self for guidance and she gives it to me and I listen, it's like the leap occurs. The micro shift occurs. The timeline jump occurs. And I've just gone through a really big one. And so I need a little bit of time to just integrate all of this, figure out how it is that you need me to show up for you in the future as we move into this next phase. And I cannot wait to come back as Rebekah 2.0. It's probably like Rebekah 10.0 at this point because I feel like I've shifted so much and I'm going to shift again in December. Every time I go to these peak experiences, I'm shifting rapidly. So you guys will meet a new version of me again and again and again and again and again. And that's the point of life. And I love that we get to share that together. So thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to catch up with you guys after the new year. I hope you have the most incredible holiday season and I will talk to you very soon. Bye. If you loved this episode, then why are you stopping here? The next level in your journey is waiting for you inside of the expansion experience. This is my free training that gives you the 5-step trademarked and proven process to break financial patterns, regulate your nervous system, and finally feel safe receiving more. Go ahead and click the show notes below and let's activate your next level together. And don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast if it lit something up inside of you. That's exactly how we build this soul-powered revolution together. Thanks again for showing up today, and I can't wait to catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.